If hell had a liquor license, it would look exactly like this place. Low ceilings, red lights, music so loud it rattled your bones and drowned out bad decisions. This club didn't serve alphas. It fed them. Omegas didn't last here. Everyone knew that. They either burned bright and disappeared, or learned how to vanish while standing in plain sight. Guess which option I picked? I stood behind the bar polishing glasses that were already clean, posture loose, scent locked down so tight it barely existed. Years of practice. Years of pretending my body didn't betray me every month like clockwork. Bartending was safer than dancing. Bartending meant a counter between me and wandering hands. Bartending meant I got to keep my clothes on. That was the theory, anyway. "Don't zone out," Luca muttered beside me, sliding a drink down the bar with practiced speed. Beta, smart, street-bred instincts that kept him alive. He watched the crowd the way prey learn to watch shadows. "I'm not zoning out," I said. "I'm dissociating. Big difference." He snorted. "Same thing, Mike." Across the room, Rhea moved like silk in survival. Omega, dancer. Scars faint but visible if you knew where to look. Stretch marks hidden beneath glitter and confidence. She caught my eye and gave me a tiny nod. Still here, still breathing. That was our version of hope. I adjusted my sleeves, feeling the familiar ache beneath my ribs where my binder dug in. Suppressants sat heavy in my bloodstream, artificial and bitter. I hated them, but I hated being hunted more. I learned young how to disappear. Lower your eyes, dull your scent, smile just enough not to be noticed. Because the last time an alpha noticed me? Yeah, not thinking about that. Not tonight. Then the music stuttered. Not stopped, not cut, just faltered. Every alpha in the room went still. Conversations died mid-sentence. Laughter evaporated. Even the bass seemed to hesitate, like it knew better. Luca's hand froze on the counter. Rhea slowed, then stepped back. The air changed. Heavy, charged, claimed. Every alpha in the room bowed their head. I didn't. I was too busy looking up. And that was my first mistake. Adrian Hayles didn't announce himself. He didn't need to. He walked in like the building had been waiting for him all night. Tall, dark coat, calm violence wrapped in expensive fabric, the kind of alpha who didn't bare his teeth because he didn't have to. People moved without being told. Chairs shifted, space opened, the club bent around him. I should have looked away. I didn't. Our eyes met across the bar, and something in my chest did a very stupid, very traitorous thing. Oh, so that's him. I felt it before I thought it. The weight of his attention, not hungry, not leering, focused. "Hey," I muttered under my breath, grabbing a bottle. "No pressure or anything." Luca shot me a warning look. Too late. Adrien stopped at the bar, right in front of me. The silence stretched. I waited for him to speak. He didn't. He just watched me work. Hands steady. Pour clean. No tremor. I refused to rush. If I was going to die, I was at least going to die competent. "What'll it be?" I asked, finally, tone dry. "Something strong? Something illegal? Something you definitely shouldn't mix with authority?" A few nearby alphas sucked in sharp breaths. Adrian's mouth curved, just slightly. "Your recommendation," he said. His voice was low, controlled. It slid under my skin like a promise I didn't ask for. I made him something dark and dangerous. My way. He didn't question it. That mattered. Then Cain leaned in from the side, all teeth and entitlement. "You letting bartenders make decisions now?" Cain sneered. "Or you got a thing for smart mouths?" I opened mine to respond. Adrien beat me to it. "Cain," he said softly. That was all. No threat. No raised voice. Cain went pale. "Apologies," Cain muttered, stepping back like he'd nearly brushed a blade. Adrien took a sip of his drink, eyes never leaving me. "Interesting balance," he said. "You don't flinch." I shrugged. Bad reflexes, or self-respect. Hard to tell. That smile again. Focused, not predatory. My knees chose that moment to wobble. The bar tilted, the room spun, and my body reminded me I was lying to everyone. I barely made it to the sink. I gagged, bracing myself on cracked porcelain as nausea ripped through me like it had a personal vendetta. I coughed, retched, breathed through it. "Okay," I gasped. "Cool. We're doing this now." I locked the stall and pressed my forehead against the wall, fingers digging into my binder as panic clawed its way up my throat. Not now. Please. Not now. The suppressants were failing. I could feel it. That warmth, that shift, the subtle sweetness creeping back into my scent like a betrayal I couldn't outrun. Flash of memory. A different alpha. A different promise. I'll take care of you. You're safe with me. Until I wasn't. I tightened the binder another notch, hissing through my teeth. Pain grounded me. Pain was better than fear. A knock rattled the door. "Mike!" Luca's voice. "You alive in there?" "Define alive," I said weakly, splashing water on my face. "I'm going for haunted but functioning." He frowned when I opened the door. "You look like hell." Rude. I was going for mysterious. His eyes dropped to my hands, to the way they shook. Understanding flickered there. "You sure you're okay?" he asked quietly. "Yep," I lied, badly. "Just low blood sugar, or a curse, one of the two." He didn't buy it, neither did the silence behind him, because I smelled it. Alpha, clean, controlled, dangerous. The bathroom door clicked shut. I smelled him before I heard the lock, which means an alpha was there before Cain came. Later, the test stared back at me like it had a personal grudge. 2 lines, bright, unapologetic. "Oh," I whispered. "Cool, great, fantastic." I sat on the edge of my bathtub, elbows on my knees, holding the cheap plastic stick like it might suddenly apologize and change its mind. It didn't. I laughed first. A short, sharp sound that startled even me. "Wow, Mike," I muttered. "Pregnant. Again. You really do love repeating trauma, don't you?" The laugh cracked halfway through and turned into something wet and embarrassing. My chest tightened, my throat burned. I pressed my palm against my stomach, flat and innocent looking and absolutely plotting my downfall. Okay. Flashback hit without warning. Evan's smile. Smooth. Warm. Convincing. "I'll protect you. I'd never let anyone hurt you." He said all the right things while signing contracts behind my back. When his debts came due, he didn't sell assets. He sold me. An Omega contract transferred like I was furniture with a heartbeat. I remembered standing in his apartment, shaking, holding paperwork I didn't understand yet. "You'll be safer this way," Evan had said, eyes sliding away from mine. "I'm doing this for us." For us. I'd learned something important that day. Alphas who say trust me usually mean kneel. I wiped my face with the back of my hand and straightened. "No," I said out loud. "Not again. I wasn't owned. I wasn't tradable. And I sure as hell wasn't letting anyone touch my body like it came with a price tag." I stood, shoved the test into the trash, and looked around my tiny apartment. Peeling paint, second-hand couch, rent due in 5 days. Reality punched me square in the ribs. The club was my only income. I grabbed my jacket. I went back to work, I told the empty room, voice steady despite the fear clawing up my spine, knowing I was already hunted. The alley smelled like rot, spilled alcohol, and bad intentions, which made it perfect for Cain. He leaned against the brick wall like he owned it, arms crossed, grin sharp enough to draw blood. I tried to walk past him like he didn't exist. Mistake. He stepped into my space. Too close. I froze. He inhaled. Slow. Deep. His smile widened. "Oh," Cain murmured. "There it is." My stomach dropped. "You smell different," he said, eyes flicking to my middle. "Sweeter. Richer." I forced a shrug. "New soap?" He laughed, loud, cruel. "Don't insult me," Cain said. "I know pregnancy scent when I smell it." My heart slammed against my ribs. And I know you, he continued, circling me. Mike, formerly contracted, formerly owned, dumped when you stopped being profitable. I clenched my fists. You done narrating my trauma, or is there a point? His eyes gleamed. The point is, you're valuable again. Cold fear spread through me. There are people who'd pay very well for a pregnant Omega, Cain said casually. Especially one with a history, clean, quiet, desperate. I took a step back. He matched it. But, he added, tilting his head, selling you myself would be messy. My pulse roared in my ears. So I was thinking, Cain said lightly, maybe I let your boss handle it. I went still. Adrian Hayles, Cain said, savoring the name. He likes rare things. I bet he'd pay double. The alley felt too small, too narrow, like a trap snapping shut. He smiled. He said my boss would pay double. Adrien didn't announce himself. He just appeared. 1 second, Cain was smirking in my face. The next, the air shifted. Heavy. Absolute. Cain stiffened. Boss, he said quickly, stepping back like he'd suddenly remembered fear. Adrien didn't look at him. He looked at me. Really looked. His gaze swept over my face, my posture, the way my hand hovered instinctively near my stomach. Then he spoke. Cain, Adrien said calmly. Leave. No threat, no explanation. Cain swallowed. I was just... Leave. Cain left. The alley was silent except for my heartbeat trying to escape my chest. Adrien stepped closer, not crowding me, just there. How long? He asked quietly. Have you been hiding? I scoffed before I could stop myself. Define hiding, because if you mean surviving in a city that eats omegas, then... You don't smell like prey, Adrien interrupted. The words hit harder than any threat. My breath caught. He tilted his head slightly, eyes intent, not hungry, not cruel, protective. You smell like someone who learned to disappear, he said, and did it too well. I stared at him, heart pounding, every instinct screaming danger, not because he'd exposed me, because he'd seen me. That was worse than being exposed. Adrian Hayles' office didn't look like a villain's lair. That was the unsettling part. No gold, no weapons on display. Just clean lines, dark wood, and a massive window that overlooked the city like it owed him money. He closed the door behind us. Soft click. My spine straightened automatically. So, I said, glancing around, do I get a drink or is this the part where you list my crimes? Adrien didn't smile. He leaned back against his desk, arms crossed, studying me like a problem he'd already solved. You're an Omega with a special scent for which buyers pay high prices, he said. Ah, we're skipping foreplay. I laughed once, sharp and humorless. Wow, straight to it. You always this romantic? Cain planned to sell you, Adrien continued calmly, to a syndicate that doesn't return Omegas intact. My stomach twisted. You don't have a contract, he went on. No pack, no protection, and your suppressants are failing. I shrugged. Minor details. Deadly ones. Depends who you ask. He stepped closer, close enough that I could feel his presence like a wall at my back. Not crowding, containing. This city runs on hierarchy, Adrien said. Alphas at the top, betas in the cracks, omegas, traded. My jaw tightened. You're valuable now, he added, which makes you vulnerable. I met his gaze, chin lifting. I'm not an object. I know, Adrien said quietly. That's why I'm offering. I frowned. Offering what? His eyes softened, just a fraction. Protection. The word settled between us, heavy and dangerous. He said the word mine like it was optional. I stared at him. Then I laughed. Absolutely not. Adrien didn't react. Let me guess, I continued, pacing. You claim me, I behave, and in exchange I get to keep breathing? Something like that, he said evenly. No, I snapped. I don't do ownership. A claim isn't ownership, Adrien said. It's safety. It's a leash. He watched me carefully. Only if you kneel. My chest burned. Flashbacks slammed into me. Paperwork, signatures, Evan's voice saying it's just business. I saw myself standing there, traded like a currency with a pulse. No, I said again, louder. I won't be claimed. Not by you, not by anyone. Adrian's jaw tightened. Then you'll be exposed. Then I'll deal with it. You won't survive it. I stepped back, heart racing. I'd rather die free than live owned. For the first time, something like frustration flickered across his face. So be it, he said coldly. I turned and walked out. I chose freedom. It almost killed me. The storage corridor was narrow, dim, and smelled like dust and spilled alcohol. Perfect place to disappear, or get murdered. I didn't hear Cain until it was too late. His hand slammed me into the wall, knocking the air from my lungs. Stupid choice, he growled, pressing his weight into me. You could have been protected. I need him hard. He grunted but didn't back off. His hand slid lower. Panic surged. No, I gasped, twisting. Don't! His fingers brushed my stomach. Something inside me snapped. I headbutted him. Pain exploded across my forehead, but Cain reeled back, swearing. I shoved past him, heart pounding, vision blurring. Then the corridor filled with something else. Rage. Adrien. He appeared like a storm-given form, eyes dark, jaw clenched so tight it looked painful. Cain froze. Adrien didn't speak. He just moved. This time, he didn't ask permission. Later, I came back to awareness in pieces. First, the smell. Clean wood. Leather. Something expensive and calm that didn't belong in a place built on blood and noise. Second, the silence. No bass thumping through my bones. No shouting. No alphas posturing for dominance. Just quiet. Which was unsettling in its own special way. I opened my eyes and immediately tensed, because I was lying on a couch that looked like it cost more than my entire life, in a room that looked like it had never heard the word panic. Adrian's private quarters. Well, this was either very good news or very bad news. I sat up too fast and immediately regretted it. My head throbbed, my ribs protested, and my body reminded me, loudly, that it was doing something extremely important on the inside right now. Easy. His voice came from the other side of the room. Calm, grounded, like nothing in the world had gone wrong tonight. Adrian Hayles stood near the window, jacket gone, sleeves rolled up. There was blood on his knuckles. Not much. Enough to make a point. I swallowed. So, I said hoarsely. On a scale of 1 to I told you so, how bad did it get? He turned slowly, dark eyes scanning me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Not hunger, not anger, assessment. You're safe, he said. I blinked. That wasn't the question. Answering it anyway. He crossed the room and handed me a glass of water. I accepted it because I wasn't stupid, and also because my hands were shaking. I took a sip, then another. I paused. Did you? Cain won't be bothering you again, Adrien said. That was all. No details, no bragging, no gore, which somehow made it worse and better at the same time. The door opened quietly and Lucas slipped in, pale as paper. Mike, he breathed, relief flooding his face. Holy hell, I thought... I know, I said. Me too. He rushed over, eyes scanning me for injuries. You okay? He didn't... I'm fine, I cut in gently. Mostly bruised, ego severely damaged. Lucas snorted weakly, then glanced at Adrien like he was looking at a loaded weapon. Thank you, he said stiffly. Adrien nodded once. Another figure appeared in the doorway, Rhea. She looked at me, really looked, and her shoulders sagged in relief. You're alive, she whispered. Low bar, but yes, I said. Still breathing, still sarcastic. She laughed, eyes bright with unshed tears. Good. She didn't look afraid of Adrien. She looked relieved. That was new. Luca and Ria didn't stay long. This wasn't their territory, and they knew it. Before leaving, Luca squeezed my shoulder. "Don't be stupid," he murmured. "Okay?" I smiled faintly. No promises. When they were gone, the room felt larger, quieter. Adrien stood near the door, giving me space. No chains, no orders, no sudden claim, just shelter. That confused me more than fear. The bedroom was even worse, in the sense that it was soft, warm, designed for rest. Dangerous things, those. Adrien gestured to the bed. "You should lie down." I crossed my arms. "Is this where the ominous part happens?" He raised an eyebrow. "Do you want it to?" "No." "Then it won't." I studied him, suspicious. "You're not very good at being terrifying right now. I can try harder if that makes you comfortable." I huffed, despite myself, and sat on the edge of the bed, easing my sore ribs. The mattress dipped, supportive, like it was used to holding weight without complaint. Adrien stayed standing. "Rules," he said. I looked up. "I didn't agree to—" "My rules," he clarified. "Oh," he continued, voice steady. "You stay here. You eat. You rest. No one touches you without your consent." I blinked. "Including you?" "Especially me." That landed harder than I expected. "I won't mark you," Adrien said. "I won't bind you. I won't force a claim." "Then why am I here?" I asked quietly. "Because you're in danger," he said, "and because you don't deserve to be hunted." I laughed under my breath. "You barely know me." "I know enough," he replied. He stepped closer, not invading, just present. "I don't own what I didn't earn," he said, "and I don't take what isn't freely given." My chest tightened in a way that had nothing to do with injury. That was the moment I realized something important. Adrien wasn't forcing the claim. He was waiting. And suddenly, I was more afraid of the truth than I'd been of Cain. I hadn't told him about the baby yet. Sleep didn't come easily. Every time I closed my eyes, my body pulsed with awareness of the room, of the bed, of the alpha presence just beyond the door. Adrien hadn't left. I could feel him nearby, like a steady anchor. Eventually, I gave up. I padded out of the bedroom and found him seated at a small table, reading something on his tablet. He looked up instantly. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "Apparently my brain has decided tonight is the perfect time for a meltdown." He stood. "Sit." Not a command, an invitation. I sat across from him, fingers twisting together. My throat felt tight. "I need to tell you something," I said. He nodded. "I know," I frowned. "You know what?" "That you're pregnant." The words hit like a dropped glass. What?" "I smelled it," Adrien said gently. "Before Cain did. You've been masking it well, but not perfectly." Heat flooded my face. "Great, fantastic. Love that for me." He didn't smile. He knelt. Actually knelt. Right there on the floor in front of me, bringing himself level with my hands. I froze. "I suspected," he said quietly, "but I wanted you to tell me when you were ready." My breath hitched. "You're not angry?" "No." "Disgusted?" "No." "Planning to use it as leverage?" His eyes darkened. "Never." I swallowed hard. "I was sold once," I said, "because I was pregnant, because I was inconvenient." "I know," Adrien said softly. I stared at him. "How?" "Because you flinch when you talk about the past," he said, "and because you fight like someone who learned that survival means never kneeling." My chest burned. "I won't take your child," he continued. "I won't bargain with your body. I won't claim you for what you carry." Tears blurred my vision. "Then why help me?" He reached out, stopping just short of touching my knee, waiting. "Because you're brave," Adrien said. "Because you're sharp. Because you joke when you're afraid, and stand your ground when you shouldn't have to. My laugh came out broken. That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about my bad coping mechanisms. His mouth curved. You're remarkable, Mike, I inhaled shakily. You don't even know me. I know enough to say this, he said, voice steady. Sure. I'll protect you, and I'll protect your child. No price, no debt. My heart hammered. Us? I whispered. Yes, Adrien said. He said he'd protect us both. And for the first time since I learned how to disappear, I wondered what it might feel like. To stay. If someone had told me a month ago that I'd be living in the private quarters of the most feared alpha in the city, wrapped in silk sheets, eating actual food that didn't come in a plastic container, I would have laughed in their face. And then probably asked what drugs they were on. Yet here I was. I lay sprawled on Adrian Hayles' couch, one leg hooked over the armrest, wearing a borrowed shirt that smelled like him, clean, dark, something expensive and grounding. It hung off one shoulder, soft against my skin. Pampered. That was the word. I hated it, and loved it. You're staring, I said, not opening my eyes. I'm assessing, Adrien replied calmly from across the room. Uh-huh. Assessing what? Whether I clash with your furniture? Silence. Then, you fit. I cracked one eye open. That sounded suspiciously like a compliment. It was. I groaned dramatically and flopped an arm over my face. Great. I've officially crossed into the kept omega stage of my life. Adrian's footsteps approached. I felt him before I heard him, the shift in the air, the subtle pressure of his presence settling over me like gravity. You're not kept, he said. Tell that to the robe, I muttered, and the soup, and the fact that you confiscated my shoes. They were uncomfortable. They were mine. They were a hazard. I peeked through my fingers just in time to see the faintest smirk tug at his mouth. He handed me a bowl. Warm. Real broth. Vegetables that hadn't been boiled into surrender. I sniffed it suspiciously. Did you poison this? Yes, Adrien said dryly. Slowly. With nutrients. I snorted and accepted it, curling up a little more on the couch as I ate. My body relaxed despite my best efforts. The ache in my ribs had dulled. The constant low-level panic that usually hummed in my bones had quieted. That scared me more than Cain ever had. Adrien sat nearby, not touching, not crowding, but close enough that his scent wrapped around me without permission. Alpha pheromones, rich and steady, not overwhelming, not claiming, protective. I felt my shoulders drop before I could stop them. Careful, I said lightly. If you keep this up, I might start thinking you're nice. He glanced at me. Is that dangerous? Extremely. Ruins the whole terrifying reputation. He hummed. I'll survive. The quiet stretched, comfortable, intimate, too intimate. I didn't notice the shift until it was already happening. A knock at the door, low, cautious. Adrien stood instantly, posture changing, alert, dangerous. The door opened just enough for a man I didn't recognize to murmur something in his ear. Adrian's jaw tightened. Later, in the meeting room, I wasn't supposed to be here. That was the first thing I knew. The second was that Adrien had brought me anyway. The meeting room sat beneath the club, sealed and soundproofed, the kind of place deals were made that never saw daylight. A long table. Low lighting. Faces half hidden by shadow and smoke. Syndicate leaders. Fixers. Alphas who'd never dirtied their hands but made sure others did. I sat at Adrian's right, hands folded in my lap, heart pounding. I smiled. It confused them. So, one of them said, eyes flicking to me. This is the Omega. I waved. Hi, try not to talk about me like I'm not here. It's rude. A ripple of irritation passed through the room. Pregnant, too, another murmured. That increases his value. My stomach churned. Rare bloodline, someone added. Strong scent. Survivability. I leaned toward Adrien and whispered, Am I allowed to bite? No, he murmured back. Yet. They talked numbers like they were discussing real estate, futures, leverage, breeding potential. I clenched my jaw, nails biting into my palms. Then Adrien stood. The room stilled. "You're mistaken," he said calmly. One alpha scoffed. "About what?" "About this being a discussion." Silence. Adrian's hand came down on the table. Not hard, just enough. "This Omega is under my protection," he said. "Not for sale, not tradable, not negotiable." "And the child?" someone challenged. Adrian's gaze went glacial. "Especially not the child." A beat, then another. "You're choosing him over the system," the man said. "Yes." "That makes you a target." Adrian's voice didn't change. "Then aim carefully." The club was packed. Music thundered. Lights pulsed. Bodies pressed together in a familiar chaos that used to make me feel small. Adrien led me through it. The crowd parted instinctively, eyes following us with curiosity, fear, speculation. I felt exposed, vulnerable, seen. Adrien stepped onto the raised platform overlooking the dance floor. He raised one hand. The music cut. Every head turned. I swallowed hard. "Attention," Adrien said, voice carrying effortlessly. "There's been confusion." A murmur rippled through the crowd. He reached for me then. Not my neck. Not my wrist. My hand. He lifted it, holding it firm and warm in his. "This Omega," Adrien said, "is under my protection." I felt his thumb brush my knuckles, gentle, steadying. He is not merchandise. He is not leverage. He is not a prize. The room held its breath. "Anyone who touches him answers to me." The words landed like a verdict. I looked up at him, heart hammering, and for a split second the room disappeared. "You're safe," he murmured, "just for me. I've got you." The silence shattered into whispers, then acceptance. And the city believed him. Because when Adrian Hayles claimed something, the city listened. The rooftop smelled like rain and concrete, and the faint metallic tang of the city breathing below us. I liked rooftops. They reminded me that there was sky above the cages people built. Adrien stood near the edge, hands resting on the low wall, coat tugged by the wind like it wanted to escape him. The city bowed to him even from up here, lights sprawling outward like offerings. I hated how safe I felt standing behind him. That was the problem. "You know," I said, breaking the silence, "this is usually the part in stories where the Omega realizes he's fallen into a very luxurious trap." Adrien didn't turn. "Is that what you think this is?" "I think," I replied, pacing, "that I've gone from running for my life to being wrapped in silk and protected by the city's most dangerous alpha, and that should scare me more than it does." He faced me then. His gaze was steady, patient, waiting. "I don't want to wake up one day," I continued, words spilling faster now, "and realize I've traded one cage for another. A nicer one, sure. Better view, better food. Still a cage." The wind whipped my hair into my face. I shoved it back angrily. "I've spent my whole life surviving," I said, lowering my head, making myself smaller, laughing things off so people wouldn't notice how scared I was. My chest tightened. "I don't know how to be chosen," I admitted. "Not without losing myself." Adrien took a step closer. Not too close. "I won't take your autonomy," he said quietly. "That's easy to say when you're the one with all the power," I shot back. "You could ruin me without lifting a finger." "Yes," he said. "I could." I flinched. Then he added, "And I haven't." I laughed, sharp and shaky. "Congratulations, gold star for basic decency." Something shifted in his expression, not anger, something like resignation. He exhaled slowly, and then he dropped the mask. "I wasn't raised to be decent," Adrien said. The words were flat, honest, heavy. I stopped pacing. "My family didn't see people," he continued. "They saw assets, weaknesses, pressure points." I crossed my arms, suddenly cold. Omegas were leverage, he said. Children were leverage. Love was leverage. His jaw tightened. I was taught to break people without touching them, to make them kneel and thank me for it. That explained everything. So what? I said softly. You woke up one day and decided to be different? No, Adrien said. I woke up one day and realized I was empty. He looked at the city, not seeing it. Power without choice is just another kind of prison, he said. I've lived my whole life surrounded by people who bowed because they were afraid. His gaze found mine. You didn't. I swallowed. You argued with me, he went on, mocked me, refused my protection even when it would have kept you safe. Still proud of that, I muttered. His mouth twitched. You chose me without kneeling. The words settled into my chest like something fragile and bright. That matters, Adrien said. More than you know. I searched his face, looking for manipulation. Found none. Mike, he said quietly, I don't want to own you. I want you to stand beside me. My throat burned. That broke something open in me. The hallway was dim, far from the noise of the club and the weight of eyes. We stood there, close enough to feel each other's warmth, far enough that nothing was inevitable. That mattered. I took a breath. Okay, I said, hypothetically. Adrien raised an eyebrow. If I were to choose you, I continued, it wouldn't be because I'm scared, or desperate, or pregnant and cornered. He nodded once. I wouldn't accept it otherwise. It would be because I want you, I said bluntly, and because you make me feel like I don't have to disappear. The air between us tightened. I want you, Adrien said, voice low, reverent. Exactly as you are. I stepped closer. So, I added, because sarcasm was my emotional support animal, no biting, no claiming, no dramatic alpha nonsense. He smiled, really smiled. Just a kiss, he said. If you want. I did. I closed the distance and pressed my mouth to his. It was soft, careful, grounding. His hand hovered at my waist, never touching until I leaned into it. When he did hold me, it was like being anchored, steady, warm, sure. I exhaled against him, tension bleeding out of my body for the first time in years. When we pulled back, my forehead rested against his chest. Well, I murmured, that was alarming. He chuckled quietly. Why? Because I liked it. His hand slid to my back, protective but not possessive. So did I. I smiled into his shoulder, heart racing with something dangerously close to hope. I let myself want more. After 2 days, Adrien took me to this warehouse. It smelled like rust, oil, and bad decisions, which was fitting, considering Cain had chosen it as the stage for his final act of stupidity. I stood beside Adrien, hands tucked into the pockets of my coat, posture relaxed in a way that would have fooled anyone who didn't know me. Inside, my nerves were doing parkour. This is the part where you tell me everything's under control, I muttered. Adrien didn't look at me. Everything's under control. I snorted. You say that like the universe listens to you. It usually does. Cain stood across the concrete floor, flanked by men who looked tough until Adrien walked into the room. Then they looked like employees who'd just realized the company was bankrupt. Cain's smile was tight, desperate. You think this ends with you? He said to Adrien. You burn my deals, my contacts, my supply routes? Fine. I still have leverage. His gaze flicked to me. Ah, there it was. I tilted my head. Hi. Still not for sale. You're carrying something valuable, Cain sneered. Someone will pay. Adrien stepped forward. The temperature dropped. Your network is gone, Adrien said calmly. Your accounts are frozen. Your allies have already chosen distance over loyalty. Cain laughed, brittle. You think I didn't plan for this? Adrien's eyes were cold. You planned to run. He gestured subtly. Doors opened. Men moved. Not Adrien's men alone. Neutral parties, enforcers, the kind who didn't care about personal grudges, just outcomes. Cain's face drained of color. "This city doesn't belong to you," Adrien continued. "It never did. And it doesn't belong to me." He paused. "It belongs to people who understand consequences." Cain lunged. Bad choice. Adrien didn't move fast. He moved inevitably. Cain hit the floor, pinned, his bravado evaporating under the weight of reality. I watched, heart steady. Not because I wasn't scared, because I wasn't running anymore. As Cain was dragged away, Adrien turned to me. "It's done," he said. I nodded, exhaling. That was the end of running. Adrien's home sat above the city like a quiet truth. Glass, stone, light. No shadows trying to swallow you whole. I stood in the bathroom, staring at the small silver case in my hand. Suppressants. I rolled them between my fingers, then set them on the counter. Done. When I stepped out, Adrien looked up from the couch instantly. "You're sure of not using suppressants again?" he asked. I nodded. "I'm tired of pretending my body is something to apologize for." He stood and crossed the room, stopping a respectful distance away. His scent brushed mine, warm, steady, familiar. "May I?" he asked, eyes dropping to my stomach. I swallowed and nodded. His hand rested there, gentle, reverent, like the world had narrowed to that single point of connection. "You're incredible," Adrien said quietly. "You always have been." I laughed softly. "You say that like I'm not currently wearing your hoodie and stealing your good snacks. Especially then." We told the house staff together. No whispers, no shame, just truth. I watched their reactions, surprise, then acceptance, then respect, not fear. Later, standing in the open balcony with the city laid bare beneath me, I breathed in deep. My scent bloomed freely for the first time in years. "I stopped being invisible," I whispered. Adrien's hand found mine. The bedroom was quiet, soft light. No rush, no audience. Just us. Adrien stood across from me, jacket off, sleeves rolled, every line of him composed but attentive. Waiting. I took a breath. "I don't want this because I'm scared," I said, "or because I need protection." "I know," he replied. "I want this because I choose you," I continued, "because you see me, and because you don't ask me to kneel." Adrien stepped closer, slow and deliberate. "And I choose you," he said, "because you challenge me, because you refuse to disappear, because you make me better than I was." His hand lifted, hovering near my shoulder. "May I?" he asked. "Yes." When he touched me, it wasn't a mark or a bite or anything dramatic. It was a promise. We pressed our foreheads together, breath mingling, hearts steadying each other. "I'm yours," I said softly, "not because I have to be." He smiled, a rare, unguarded thing. "And I'm yours, without conditions." We sealed it not with force, but with intention, with a kiss that felt like home and a future folded carefully into the present. I rested my head against his chest, listening to the strong, steady rhythm beneath. For the first time in my life, I wasn't being claimed to survive. I was choosing to stay. I wasn't claimed because I was weak. I was claimed because I was chosen.